Imagine walking into a room where every word you speak lands exactly where you want it. Every argument, every suggestion, even your quietest observation is met with agreement. You might think this is luck, charm, or perhaps the result of sheer charisma. But what if I told you that persuasion isn't random at all? That behind every nod, every acquiescence, there lies a deep structure and invisible architecture of influence that shapes human behavior far more than we realize. History is full of figures who understood this invisible web. Niccolò Machiavelli, often reduced to a symbol of cunning and ruthless politics, was not merely a schemer of princes. He was a meticulous observer of human nature. He studied how fear, desire, social perception, and subtle psychological pressures govern choices. He understood that control over minds was far more powerful than control over armies. These mind tricks are not relics of the past. They exist in our modern world, embedded in social interactions, politics, advertising, and even personal relationships. The stakes are high because understanding them is not just about winning arguments or getting people to agree. It is about recognizing the hidden currents that guide your own decisions and the world around you. Every day, invisible forces shape what we believe, what we desire, and how we act, forces we rarely question, yet obey instinctively. By the end of this exploration, you will see that influence is not magic, it is a science, a careful, deliberate art of understanding human behavior, honed over centuries, waiting to be recognized, understood, and, perhaps, wielded. Welcome to the hidden power of influence. Trick 1. The illusion of choice. We like to believe that our choices are entirely our own, that when we decide, we are exercising freedom, reason, and self-determination. Yet, psychology tells a different story. Often the choices we think are ours are carefully framed, subtly nudged, and artfully limited. We feel in control. Yet the outcome has been quietly guided long before we act. Machiavelli understood this principle centuries ago. He advised leaders not to coerce obedience openly, but to craft situations where subjects believed they were choosing freely, even as the options presented inevitably led to the desired outcome. A prince could offer two policies, both appearing as alternatives, yet both reinforcing his authority. The people, feeling empowered, embraced the path already designed for them. Modern life is full of these invisible nudges. Marketing relies on the same principle present in limited bundles, curated selections, or suggested options that guide decisions without overt pressure. Even in everyday interactions, negotiation works this way. A friend may offer 2 times to meet, both subtly advantageous to you. Or a colleague presents choices that inevitably steer the conversation in their favor. The illusion of choice is powerful because it respects our need for autonomy. When people feel free, they comply more willingly. When they believe their decisions are self-directed, they are more likely to follow, agree, or act. Persuasion, in this sense, is not about forcing the mind. It is about elegantly shaping the framework in which the mind believes it is free. The true mastery lies in the subtlety, guiding without revealing the hand that guides. Trick 2. Authority and credibility. Humans are wired to follow authority. From a young age, we learn to respect teachers, leaders, and experts, assuming that those who appear knowledgeable or powerful are inherently right. This instinct, once vital for survival and social cohesion, can be leveraged to shape opinions and guide behavior. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this deeply. He observed that people rarely question authority, not because they are foolish, but because trust in perceived expertise is built into human nature. In history, authority has been carefully constructed. Kings surrounded themselves with advisors, robes, and ceremonies to convey competence and legitimacy. Religious leaders claimed divine insight. Military commanders displayed insignia and hierarchy, signaling power that few dared challenge. The message was simple: follow the one who commands knowledge, and you survive. Modern society mirrors the same principle. Influencers, politicians, and experts wield immense sway over our choices, from what we consume to what we believe. A recommendation from someone perceived as credible carries more weight than mountains of evidence. Even subtle cues, clothing, posture, confidence can create the impression of authority. The psychological mechanism is elegant in its simplicity. Authority reduces the burden of critical thinking. When someone appears credible, we assume their judgment is correct, often without questioning it. This is why persuasion through authority works not through coercion, but through trust, perception, and our instinctive desire to follow those who seem to know more. Mastery of influence lies in projecting credibility, understanding that how we are perceived can be more powerful than what we actually say. Trick 3. Emotional anchoring logic alone rarely moves people. Humans are emotional creatures, and our decisions are often guided less by reason than by feeling. Machiavelli recognized this centuries ago, observing that fear, hope, and desire could bend entire populations to a leader's will. The mind may debate, but the heart often decides. Emotions act as anchors. A single powerful feeling, anger, pride, empathy, can make a person more receptive to ideas that align with that state. Fear, for instance, can make even the most rational individual cling to promises of safety. Hope can inspire loyalty, while desire can obscure judgment entirely. Leaders who understand this do not argue with logic alone. They evoke emotion first, and reason follows. History is full of examples. Propaganda campaigns have long leveraged fear to unite or control, while movements of hope have inspired revolutions. Even small-scale persuasion works the same way. A speaker who appeals to shared values before presenting facts. A negotiator who acknowledges feelings before proposing terms. These strategies anchor the audience emotionally, creating an invisible pull toward agreement. Modern society exploits this constantly. Marketing, social media, and political messaging manipulate emotional anchors to shape behavior subtly yet effectively. The lesson is clear. Influencing someone is less about convincing their mind and more about resonating with their emotions. When you understand the anchor, you can guide decisions, steer perspectives, and even make people agree with ideas they might have otherwise resisted. Emotion is the invisible lever that tilts the mind toward compliance. Trick 4. Reciprocity and obligation. Humans are wired to return favors. It is one of the most powerful, yet overlooked, levers of influence. This principle of reciprocity creates an invisible bond. When someone gives, we feel compelled to give back. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He advised rulers to reward loyalty strategically, knowing that even small gestures of generosity could secure long-term compliance and obedience. The power of reciprocity lies in subtlety. It doesn't require grand acts. A kind word, a minor concession, a small gift. These gestures trigger a psychological obligation. The recipient feels indebted, often unconsciously, and becomes more receptive to agreement, cooperation, or persuasion. Leaders, negotiators, and influencers have exploited this truth repeatedly throughout history. A prince who grants favors earns more loyalty than one who commands with force alone. A diplomat who offers concessions can secure alliances that coercion could never achieve. In modern life, the principle operates everywhere. Marketing campaigns give free samples to create future purchases. Social media influencers provide knowledge, entertainment, or validation, fostering an unspoken obligation among followers. Even in everyday conversations, offering a compromise or favor often results in reciprocation, subtly steering decisions in your favor. What makes this trick so potent is that it respects human instinct. We naturally wish to balance social debts. When leveraged thoughtfully, reciprocity becomes a tool of influence that feels natural to both parties. People agree, comply, and align, not because they are forced, but because the obligation is embedded in the very architecture of human behavior. Understanding this is understanding one of the most elegant mechanisms of persuasion ever devised. Trick 5. The power of scarcity and urgency motivates humans more than the fear of loss. Scarcity and urgency tap into a primitive part of the mind that reacts faster than reason. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, recognizing that people will act decisively when they believe opportunities are limited or fleeting. The possibility of missing out can override logic, debate, and caution, compelling action before reflection even occurs. Throughout history, leaders and strategists have exploited this principle. Military campaigns often relied on creating urgency to rally troops or force decisive action. Political leaders presented crises real or imagined to provoke swift compliance. Even in commerce, scarcity has long been a tool. Limited editions, exclusive privileges, or fleeting access trigger immediate desire and agreement. The psychological mechanism is simple yet profound. When we perceive that something is rare, our brains inflate its value, increasing urgency and making us more likely to comply or align with the source of scarcity in modern life. This principle pervades advertising, social media, and daily decisions. Flash sales, countdown timers, and limited availability prompts subtly manipulate behavior. People feel pressured to act, believing delay will result in loss. Even personal interactions exploit the same dynamic. A sense of urgency or rare opportunity can steer decisions in your favor, often without overt persuasion. Mastery of scarcity and urgency lies not in deception, but in understanding instinct. By framing choices through the lens of limited opportunity, you can trigger compliance, agreement, and alignment. The human mind responds not only to what is presented, but to what it fears losing the invisible leverage of time and rarity. Trick 6. Social proof and herd mentality. Humans are social creatures. We look to others to determine what is correct, safe, or desirable. Machiavelli recognized this instinct long before modern psychology named it. People rarely act alone. And conformity is one of the strongest forces guiding behavior. When others behave a certain way, we assume it is the right way, and our own judgment often follows the crowd. Throughout history, social proof has shaped societies and movements. Crowds can elevate a leader, legitimize ideas, or enforce compliance without direct coercion. Entire revolutions, religious movements, and political shifts were amplified simply because individuals observed others acting and concluded that participation was necessary. The collective behavior signals approval, morality, or correctness, creating a subtle yet unstoppable momentum. Modern examples are everywhere. Viral trends, online endorsements, and mass opinions exploit this same principle. Seeing others adopt a product, belief, or behavior convinces us of its validity, often bypassing critical thinking. Even small groups in daily life wield this influence. The perception that everyone else is doing it can sway choices, opinions, and actions. Social proof works because humans seek safety and belonging. Agreeing with the crowd reduces risk, creates connection, and diminishes cognitive effort. By understanding this instinct, one can guide decisions indirectly, shaping choices through the power of perceived consensus. Influence here is subtle, almost invisible. It is not about forcing compliance, but letting the weight of collective behavior pull others toward agreement. In the dance of human decision-making, the herd is a force no one can ignore. Trick 7. Repetition and familiarity. Familiarity breeds acceptance. The human mind is drawn to what it recognizes, even when logic might suggest skepticism. Machiavelli understood that repeated exposure to ideas, symbols, and messages strengthens influence, slowly bending perception and shaping agreement. When something becomes familiar, it feels safe, trustworthy, and credible, regardless of its intrinsic truth. History is filled with examples. Propaganda, political messaging, and religious doctrines often rely on repetition to normalize beliefs, sway opinions, and secure compliance. The more an idea is encountered, the more it is internalized, until acceptance seems natural, inevitable even. This is why rulers, marketers, and influencers all leverage constant messaging, because repeated exposure is a silent architect of the mind in everyday life. The same principle operates subtly. Advertisements, slogans, social media posts, and even personal arguments use repetition to reinforce perspectives. When a concept is repeated frequently enough, resistance diminishes and agreement grows. The mechanism is simple yet powerful. Familiarity reduces doubt, creates comfort, and subtly nudges people toward alignment. Mastery of repetition is not about coercion. It is about understanding the rhythms of the mind, planting ideas that flourish over time. When wielded wisely, repetition transforms perception, making agreement feel natural, effortless, and inevitable. The mind comes to embrace what it knows, even before it realizes it has been guided there. The ethical dilemma of persuasion influence is a double-edged sword. The same principles that allow you to guide others can also shape your own decisions without your awareness. Understanding Machiavelli's mind tricks illusion of choice, authority, emotional anchoring, reciprocity, scarcity, social proof, and repetition is not merely about gaining power over others. It is about recognizing the invisible forces that govern human behavior. The ethical question emerges: how should such knowledge be used? When applied consciously, these strategies can foster cooperation, resolve conflicts, and inspire action. When misused, they manipulate, deceive, and control. Every interaction becomes a potential battleground between subtle influence and genuine autonomy. The lesson is not to exploit blindly, but to observe, understand, and protect yourself from unseen pressures. In a world where persuasion shapes politics, media, marketing, and personal relationships, awareness becomes freedom. Recognizing the architecture of influence allows you to navigate life with clarity, making choices consciously rather than reflexively. The power of persuasion is not inherently evil, it is a reflection of human nature itself, a mirror of our desires, fears, and instincts. To master influence is to understand the mind, both others and your own. The ultimate insight is that true power lies not only in convincing others, but in seeing the invisible currents that guide all decisions. Awareness transforms manipulation into understanding and knowledge into freedom.